वेलकम बैक। हम इस बात पर गुफ्तगू कर रहे थे कि आफिया सिद्दीकी ने कि जो इतराफ़ी बयान यानी कन्फेशन स्टेटमेंट दी है उसके बारे में इनके वकील चार्ल्स स्विफ्ट फरमा रहे थे कि वो बुनियादी तौर पर दो वजूहात की वजह से हो सकता है। एक तो ये है कि किसी तौर पर उस पर क्वेश्चन की गई हो या उनको ज़बरदस्ती किया गया हो या उनकी ज़हनी हालत इस तरह की हो कि उन्होंने इसको बयान को दिया हो और वो कहते हैं कि मैंने इसको किसी तौर पर वहाँ पर साबित करने की कोशिश की कि ये ऐसा हुआ है। तो उस पर हम गुफ्तगू करते हैं। So you said that it was coercion or you said both coercion and the mental state of Afia Siddiqui.
Yes, it was the mental state. When I saw the video on the part, you could see a woman who was clearly suffering from delusions.
Yes.
In fact, that's why the Afghans had stopped her in the first place. She wasn't committing any crime. She was delusional. She was asking questions. She wasn't oriented to space
Was
and
it
time.
only delusion, a little bit of hallucinations also?
Yes. Hallucinations, delusions. She's not tied to time and space. She doesn't really understand where she's at.
Disoriented with the time and space.
Yes. And then when she got to New York and went first in front of the federal trial, she was found not to be fit to stand trial. The psychiatrist suffered that she was, the psychiatrist initially testified, the prison psychiatrist, that she suffered from delusions, that she was experiencing a schizophrenic break with reality, that she suffered hallucinations, and she could not understand or participate in her defense. She was sent to Carswell Medical, where she received about 8 months of treatment. After that 8 months of treatment, they found her fit to stand trial.
It was certified by the psychiatrist that she's fit?
Basically, they got a new psychiatrist.
Oh.
They didn't use the other.
Here's the point.
In fact, they got the psychiatrist, Dr. Sally Johnson, who had managed to get the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, somehow certified sane for trial. In other words,
Which means he has a reputation of betraying the...
Yeah, she's, let's just put it this way. Dr. Johnson sees it from the government's perspective. And she can be...
So, you're saying that the prosecution had a psychiatrist on their side?
Yes.
Otherwise, the government doctors took the government side.
Yes. And in trials, there are experts who commonly testify for the defense and for the government. Dr. Johnson is the most famous psychiatrist who testifies for the government.
Do you think that you could have asked the court at that point that we want to have an independent psychiatrist?
They could have. I was not on the defense team at that point. I was not hired until October. That decision was made in May.
May, okay. So you were hired in October 2008.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
But there was also a problem. See, the problem was, you might say, well, the psychiatric defense, why don't you put it on? Well, yeah, I could have still put it on. Why not? Because Dr. Siddiqui would end up in the same cell. See, not guilty by reason of lack of mental responsibility does not equal release. Okay? That needs to be understood. And after I'd looked at the forensic evidence, I said, whether she was competent or not doesn't matter because she didn't do it. If she didn't do it, who cares why she didn't do it?
Why to take the refuge?
Why she didn't do it is irrelevant. She didn't do it. And so at the point I decided, the unfortunate thing that I learned afterwards, and I really did, in sitting through this thing, the part was that Dr. Siddiqui's mental state still affected her trial. A defendant is expected to make some decisions during the course of a trial. And one of those key decisions is whether to testify or not. That is the biggest decision any defendant makes. Normally, in a case like Dr. Siddiqui's, the defendant does not testify. The science has done the testifying for them. They don't have to get up and deny that they shot when the science has showed that they haven't. In fact, you don't want to turn it into a question of a contest between Dr. Siddiqui and 12 soldiers, or 10 soldiers and 2 FBI agents. You'd rather have it be a contest between 10 soldiers, 2 FBI agents versus science,
yes,
which is how we had framed it. The next part was that it opened up the door to a lot of evidence that had been kept out, including Dr. Siddiqui's interrogation, which we had suppressed, which had been incredibly, and we had been able to suppress it because it was incredibly unfair. It was conducted while she was under medication,
yes,
where she was in no means competent, etc., tied to a bed over a 3-day period of time, and they had picked and choose small phrases out of that interrogation, which made her look very bad. We had been able to suppress it because of the conditions, but as soon as she testified, they were able to put it on, along with other background information that would not normally have been relevant. When the accused testifies, it opens the door to a lot of evidence that wouldn't ordinarily be considered.
Yes.
And unfortunately, in Dr. Siddiqui's case, I never felt that she understood the consequences of what was going to happen.
She must have been told the consequences, that she is confessing a crime.
Yes.
And the only thing is, it's a general principle of law that somebody confess, there must have some circumstantial evidence to substantiate the confession.
In this case, they would have had evidence to
I mean, you are saying you are denying them.
They would have had in the form of the soldiers. But what I'm trying to tell Dr. Siddiqui part is the confession is suppressed.
Okay.
If you don't testify, it's not coming in.
Yes.
We had succeeded in pretrial proceedings in getting the confession suppressed because of the conditions under which it had been gotten.
But she testified.
She chose to testify anyway. This opened up the door. And after 5 days, the jury returned a verdict of guilty, and I am convinced that was based because she testified.
Why you lost, the major question?
Because she testified.
Because she testified.
And that's my absolute belief.
Yes,
and I think she testified because she was incapable of, although she was an incredibly educated woman, perhaps the most educated client I have ever had. She was a very smart woman, is still a very smart woman, but she was suffering under disabilities.
Do you believe or do you suspect that during the treatment she has been provided certain sedatives or...
Oh, there was no question. There was not only did I believe it, I knew it. You know, she was, so part of being rehabilitated to stand trial.
Because that type of medication can also create hallucinations, that can, the dismissal of the contact with the reality, first under the influence of the drugs.
Well, no. Now let's go on the part on where the treatment occurred. In the treatment and the part, her mental health treatment didn't start until after she'd been interrogated. At the time that she was being interrogated, a morphine drip for having been shot. She was suffering immediately.
Why morphine? Why morphine? It's basically a painkiller.
Right, because she was an they shot her, the soldiers, she was shot in the abdomen, the most painful wound any person.
Do you have any information that those soldiers who shot Orya Siddiqui have been put on trial?
No, they were never put on trial.
They were never put on the trial.
The reason, of course, that they weren't put on trial was that they had convinced the authorities that she had a weapon and she was shooting at them. And of course, they could shoot
They did it in defense. Okay, so is there any way out?
Well, it is. I think the first way out part is Dr. Siddiqui's appeals are exhausted. And again, she did not cooperate in her appeals, and therefore she hurt them, quite frankly.
No, if you take a plea at the moment, let me talk a little bit, that at the moment that she is not in a state of mind to appeal.
Right.
So why can't some people come on the basis of humanitarian grounds?
I think those are our avenues that should be explored.
That would
be explored. In the part, what I would say in the part is certainly because Dr. Siddiqui has not, she went back. The part on this is that cell that she was in treatment before she was being held for treatment before her trial. The only time that Dr. Siddiqui has not been confined in Carswell, New Mexico, after initial arraignment was for the 3 months that she was on trial. The rest of the time, the day after she was sentenced, she was returned to Carswell, New Mexico, and she's been in Carswell Air Force Base. It's actually in Fort Worth, Texas, excuse me. Carswell Air Force Base, where she's held at the Women's Hospital there. And she's been held there for the last 9 years. Again, on which is the mental health hospital.
Yes, I know. Yes.
For the federal.
Do you think that for knocking the door of the law or going for her release, the permission of the Pakistan government is necessary, or any humanitarian organization can knock the door?
I think that it is a complicated question. I think that, when you say...
Not making it as an issue of West versus the East, or North versus the South, or Afghan versus the... Oh, yes, shouldn't be.
I think
purely on humanitarian ground, the person is not feeling well, and she is having some psychotic problems, and one can manage the release. One can pray at the court, or one can pray for the authorities that she could be released.
You can. That's absolutely true. You can.
That's absolutely true. So, where to go to the court or to some administrative authority?
In the answer on that part is humanitarian release actually begins with the prison, not with the court.
With the prison authorities. So the prison authorities...
They petition the court.
Yes.
I can tell you about other cases I've done. I think that's probably a better way to do this. I've worked on several cases. One for a Pakistani national who was, in his case, suffering from cancer. He'd been convicted. He had terminal cancer. And the prison authorities went on his behalf back to the court, and he had received a 70-year sentence, and they went back to have his sentence reduced to time served. His defense attorneys at the trial, the federal public defenders, and myself, who had also helped on, who had taken over the appeal, the two of us went back to the trial court. I needed to be there because I was going to withdraw my appeal. That was that was one of the contexts, is we withdraw our appeal. If the court grants this, the federal public defenders gave the argument on why it was in the interest. The government opposed it, and then the judge said, well, I hear the government's opposition, but based on the positions of the defense attorneys withdrawing the appeals, the U.S. prison wanting it, the family plan that has been submitted for his care afterwards, I'm going to reduce my sentence based on a change in circumstances.
If somebody asks the court or the authorities that for the rest of his life, his illness is such that he will be managing the life very on a minimal sort of health. So could it be possible?
Well, it's actually not only could it be possible, it's done every day in the federal.
It's done every day. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, I believe.
Well, I hope so.
Thank you very much, Charles Swift. I'm really grateful that you came here and you told about the entire story of the Afia's case and her evidence. Most of the people in Pakistan even don't know your name.
Yes.
Even don't know how the case was done, what was the trial. So I think it will educate the people. And again, you have given a hope that she could be released.
This part is, I'll tell you this part on myself, is I've been doing this now for almost 30 years. Excellent. And hers is the case I think about when I go tonight. I don't think about the cases I've won. I think about her case.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. नाज़रीन, हमने आज के इस एपिसोड में उन बहुत सारी हकीकतों से पर्दा उठाने की कोशिश की है। इससे पहले हमने डॉक्टर बैरिस्टर दाऊद ग़ज़नवी साहब की किताब पर गुफ्तगू की थी और हमें अंदाज़ा हुआ था कि आफिया सिद्दीकी की रिहाई की बहुत सारी ऐसी राहें मौजूद हैं जिनको अभी तक हमने एक्सप्लॉइट ही नहीं किया। आज इनको देख के महसूस होता है कि ये कोई इतना बड़ा काम नहीं है कि जिसे अगर हमारी हिम्मत हो और हमारे अंदर विल हो और हम इसे हासिल न कर सकें। चार्ल्स स्विफ्ट यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। और हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि किसी न और बहुत सारे लोग हमारे दोस्त बेस्ट लोग भी कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि किसी न किसी तरीके से कोई रास्ता ऐसा निकले कि आफिया सिद्दीकी अपने बच्चों के दरमियान मौजूद हो। इजाज़त दीजिए, अल्लाह ने के बाद।